prosecutors in this case waited till the last minute to prepare her to testify when they knew that she has a bipolar diagnosis, she has symptoms of schizophrenia. They knew she was a delicate soul, and because frankly they were lazy and reckless, they waited to prep her until the night before her testimony, and that was the beginning of this tragedy for her back in Harris County.
And so at that point, then I guess she disappears, and they find her out in the street.
Yes.
Outside the courthouse, and she's making rumblings that she wants to leave, she doesn't want to come back, she's not going to come back.
And she's having, at this point, Jimmy, a full-fledged mental breakdown.
Right. And so the prosecutor, and I should say, the facts are she was not subpoenaed as a witness. She was there. She had come on her own free will to testify. There was not an actual subpoena in place.
You're right. There was no subpoena, and she was also a resident of another county, which is something that's interesting and extremely important in this case.
Wow.
And so at this point, the prosecutor becomes very concerned that she's not going to come back when the trial resumes. And so he takes the extraordinary step of filing for what's called a writ of attachment. And this is a process, it's a legal process in which the state or even the defense, any party can seek to have a witness attached to a case and either held in custody or put on a bond to ensure their appearance to testify in court. The prosecutor does this, approaches the judge, gets the judge to sign off on it, and she goes into custody in the Harris County Jail. She doesn't get a bond.
27 days.
Yeah.
There's a bond set, Jimmy, but she does not have the money to make the bond.
Was it a $15,000 bond?
It was a $10,000 bond. The prosecutor at some point misrepresented to her mother the amount of the bond and lied to the mother to dissuade the mother from bonding my client out of jail, and that was done on Christmas Eve. The prosecutor lied to my client's mother on Christmas Eve.
Isn't that all? And it's all documented to email?
Yep.
Wow.
I mean, this is just, it's an extraordinary step to me because usually writs of attachment are done on an actual witness who's under subpoena, which you didn't have in this case. And as you alluded to earlier, you have to, the witness has to be a resident of the county. And she was neither of those.
Neither of those. It was an illegal attachment order. It was just as illegal as if I go and kidnap you on the streets of Harris County and throw you in the Harris County Jail for 27 days. It was akin to a kidnapping, frankly.
Now, is the illegality because she lived in her residence was in another county?
Not solely, but when a witness is not under subpoena, the only other way to attach that witness is if they are a resident of this county and you have reason to believe that they're leaving the county. Otherwise, the witness always has to be under subpoena. Neither of those options applied in this case.
Did the judge know that? I mean, was the judge aware of this, or was it?
My position is, based on my investigation, that the DA's office misled the judge.
Amber, you were a prosecutor.
I was a prosecutor in the military.
Right.
Right.
And I'm sure, and I think you were also a special AUSA. I looked at your resume, by the way, before you came on, because this is obviously the first time we've had you on the show. So I do my homework on our guests. You have quite an extensive resume. You've done some pretty cool stuff.
It's been a very busy past 10 years, I guess. Very busy.
Do you recall when you were a prosecutor having a procedure in place for getting writs of attachment on witnesses?
You know, really, we didn't really have these issues, for one, especially in a military setting, because when you're talking in a military setting, I mean, the nature of just an order is, especially when it's coming from a higher officer, I mean, that in itself is something you don't disobey. And so I think the structure of our military justice system is much, much different than the system that we have here. And that was actually one of the things that was so hard for me coming back from the military, is the relationships that you have within the court system are very rank structured. And there's a lot of oversight and there's a lot of command that goes down. And like, for example, when you're prosecuting a criminal case, you're actually working with a commander of the person being prosecuted. So there's this different element that's in there. So coming back to the state system, it was very different to have something that was so much more casual, I guess, in a sense, where you can actually have a witness that doesn't show up. That is kind of unheard of, for us in the military system. And so, when we do subpoenas, because we do subpoenas all the time, and someone just doesn't show up to court, especially when we're trying to get documents. We'll send the subpoena, please provide me with all these records and recordings, and you haven't heard from the person, and you show up in court on the return date, and no one's there. Or you're there for a hearing and they don't show up. For us, in the military setting, that doesn't really happen that often, or at least I didn't have that problem. I see it a lot more in the cases that we handle in the state courts.